Hey there! Welcome to A&P2 Lab. I'm Dr. Julie Robinson. I'm the Department Chair for Science and Technology at River Valley, and I am the instructor for the Wednesday morning Claremont Lab and the Tuesday afternoon Keene Lab. So I'm going to give you a little tour of the syllabus, which is pretty similar if you've taken A&P1 with us, and then we'll go through a couple of things in Canvas, which is also pretty similar as it was in A&P1 if you've taken that with us as well. If you haven't, then you want to do a little more exploration through Canvas. Regardless, you're responsible for reading every word of the syllabus so that you know the parameters of our course and the expectations. So here you'll see my contact information. It's always best to email me, and if I don't respond within 48 hours, please resend it because it probably means I just didn't get it or I didn't see it. So you're using the same lab manual as last semester. You'll also get a paper copy of the supplemental lab manual for this semester that is the guide for what you're doing in lab, what you need to study for lab practicals and what you need to be competent in, and some additional resources. So I'm going to show you that really quickly. This picture, by the way, is from a Body Worlds exhibit. Okay, so this is an example of how to use your supplemental lab manual. This lab is one we'll actually do in person. So these are your objectives. That's your study guide. So for example, in the lab practicals, which are online and use Respondus, and again, you'll do a Respondus syllabus quiz to practice using Respondus. Make sure that you have the app downloaded and that you do it properly or use it properly. So from pictures of models, you need to be able to identify these glands and the hormones that are secreted by them. You can also expect extra credit questions on the practical that includes this to be potentially things about how those hormones work in fairly simple terms, a little less complicated than what you do in the lecture course. And then there's a bunch of slides. So one of the differences between A&P1 and 2 is that every practical in A&P2 involves histology, which makes up about 20 to 25% of the practicals. Each lab will also include some additional resources for you so that you can review the slides, you can review the models, you can review calculations maybe that you need to do. So in many cases, you'll find that I've provided websites where you can practice with these things. And if there isn't one of those available on the internet, then I've built some practice resources for you. And I'll show you an example. Here's one example. This is at the end of the electronic version of the supplemental lab manual that's on Canvas, but it won't be printed for you. And then if we look down a little bit more, then we'll see some that are about blood vessels, parts of the heart, similar to the ones that you had in A&P1 for bones and muscles. Again, you'll be divided into lab groups A and B, so you want to make sure you look at that schedule really carefully. That's also noted in Canvas for you as well. One thing that's a little different for A&P2 than 1 is that in A&P1 you had a lab kit. In A&P2, there's no lab kit, but there's some online simulations of labs for you to do that are pretty cool because they let you explore physiological processes that are quite difficult for us to do in a lab in a cost-effective and safe manner, especially now. At the end of your in-person labs, just like in A&P1, there's always a lab assignment for you to do, and the online lab modules are set up very similarly. The one difference you'll find is instead of seeing the lab assignment and the resources and tasks to complete separately, the lab assignments are embedded in this lab resources and tasks to complete page. You still have 90 minutes for each of the practicals, and you still need Respondus. You still need to find a place where you can do this that is free of distractions as much as possible. Please be careful when you do your environmental scans for Respondus. You need to get the entire room, all 360 degrees, and you need to scan your work surface. There should not be phones, notes, notebooks, pens, none of that stuff unless we tell you that it's okay to use. Your grade is still calculated the same way. We do still have tutoring, so if you need a tutor, sign up early. If you find that you don't need that, then you can give away your tutor later in the semester. If you need any classroom accommodations, please contact Kathy Dreich, who will then help you get your accommodation plan to me, and I will take care of those accommodations for you. So just a brief note on academic integrity. That means really do your own work. Get your own A by yourself so you can be really proud of yourself. Regardless of your grade, you're going to work hard in this class and you want to be proud of the fact that you did the work all by yourself. Instances of plagiarism and cheating will be reported to the Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs. So let's look at your schedule, which again will look really similar. So you can see lab group A and B. In this case for week 1, for this class, this is a Wednesday morning class. The group A comes to the lab, they'll do this lab, the lab assignment, and then there's also the Respondus practice quiz on Canvas. Group B is doing an online lab simulation, and I've provided some really specific directions as well as a module in Canvas that has all the places where you need to go for tech support if you need it. In week 2, we'll switch that up. For the practicals will be due by the time your next lab starts, so that you will have taken a test before you start new material. So please be really conscious of those dates. They're noted in Canvas for you. That secret code you need for the Respondus practice quiz is MOZKO, capital M-O-Z, capital K-O. You may have actually heard one of Moz and Co. barking behind me or the cat snoring over here. So let's take a look at Canvas. Again, pretty much the same setup with just a couple of exceptions based on some feedback that we got last semester. In general, the place you need to go is modules. That's where all of your lab work will be. That's where your resources are. Grades are obviously in the Grades tab, and Zoom links will be here. So in the weeks when everybody's working online, I'll open up a Zoom session so you can pop in and ask questions. And in the past, I think students have found that time really valuable. So don't be shy. Drop in. Come talk to me. So in the Start Here link, there's some information about getting tutoring here. These are all the information you need to get tech help, including Respondus help if you need it. The supplemental lab manual is here, and the practice documents are embedded in it at the end of it. So you can print those if you want to, or you can just use them online. Each week, you'll see a module. And one thing we added, thanks to your feedback, was when your group works online, you'll see that it says online, right? Just so that you don't have to worry. Maybe you're supposed to be in lab, maybe you're not. It's just to help clarify that. If your group is supposed to come to the lab, it'll say, you go to the lab this week. So as you can see, the first couple of weeks of class are open. Proceeding weeks, you'll see, will open a little bit at a time so as not to overwhelm you with a huge volume of work. You already know, you survived A&P 1, that this is a lot of work in A&P, but these concepts you're learning are ones that you'll apply in your future program classes. So when you do labs like Labster, and this will be something new to you, you'll see there's still a list of objectives of study points for you. There's still some extra resources, and then there's directions on how to get to these lab simulations. Generally, they're pretty easy to use. The biggest thing I can tell you about them is follow the directions and follow them completely. Like, you got to really read the directions, not just skim through them. And then one other change that I can show you is with the introductory material for the lab practicals. So when this one becomes available to you, you'll click here. It goes into a page in Canvas that gives you all of that information that used to appear in the practical itself. It would be a big long section of information at the top of the page. So I've switched that around a little bit so that you'll see all of this beforehand, and then when you click on the practical itself, you're going to see a much more abbreviated version of that information, which I hope will be less distracting as you're trying to take an exam. Again, you can still go back to questions if you have time left. This is a teacher screen, so you won't see this editing button, but you will see the timer. You will be able to scroll through questions and go back to them. And just like in A&P 1, all the exams, all the practicals contain embedded extra credit in there. And just like in A&P 1, you'll see that there's some optional practice exercises. The value of these is a few things. One, you get to practice the material and see, do I really understand it? Have I been studying at enough depth? Have I studied the things I really need to know? And do I understand those things? And it'll give you a little preview of what you might see on a practical itself. For those of you that use the practice resources in A&P 1, you can probably attest to and spread the word that they are especially helpful. So I look forward to meeting you in person. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to work hard. We're not doing cat dissection as student groups this semester just because we don't want to force you to be that close together for such long periods of time. But I am more than happy, as are our other instructors, to pull out a cat, open it up for you so that you can see these beautiful pieces of anatomy that we're studying this semester in situ, in a real organ, or an organism rather, that is quite similar to the human bodies that lots of us have dissected in our own educations. And don't ever, ever, ever be afraid to ask questions or ask for help. You're not bothering us when you ask questions. That's why we teach. We love to talk about science and answer questions about it. So if you ever need help, please don't hesitate to ask. I look forward to meeting you and getting down into the lab materials.